Janet, and for this card, I'm going to be starting off with watercolor. And so I just have some water here, a large brush from King Art, and I have their metallic watercolor in front of me. And I am just going to go in and pick up color and just randomly place it onto the paper. So I am just trying to create a really nice textured background. All right. I'm not even cleaning off my brush. I'm just dipping and filling in spaces with color. All right. So I want to get the whole page really full of color, and I may go back and forth into water, trying not to necessarily make mud. However, I do want a variety of kind of pastel colors on the front here. And these are really quite metallic in look. So I'm just layering up color on top of color. And we will use this on our card that we're going to make next. So, do I feel like there's any colors missing here? I want to get a little blue in some of these areas. Add some pink on top. Sorry if the tip of my brush is hitting my camera as I just kind of get the color to go onto the paper here. Now I'm just kind of looking sideways to see where there might be some color missing. I see some white spots when I tilt my head. And so this is, if you don't have a lot of materials, this is a fun way that you can definitely, create your own patterned paper and use it in your crafting. All right, so I think I've got a good amount there, so I can move my watercolor out of the way. Okay, clean off my brush now. And it is quite metallic in look. I might go ahead and do a little bit of gold spray on top of this. This is some DIY spray, gold shimmer. And so just making sure all that mica is mixed up in there. And now if I can, if it doesn't want to, there we go. As I say, if it doesn't want to squirt out, we can always take it out and kind of just dab it with the nozzle part. All right, so this is all ready to go now, except that it needs to dry. I'm going to bring in my heat tool and give this a nice... All right, so my paper is all dry now. I'm going to add a little bit of pink splatter. So I'm just going to put some paint off to the side here and maybe give it a shake to get it going. And I'm going to really water it down using my paintbrush. It came with the watercolors. All right, and now I'm just going to kind of do a little pink splatter on here. And then once again, I'm going to have to dry it off before we go to cut it with our SVG file. All right, so that just adds another layer of color, another layer of interest. And that will then go ahead and connect with what we do in the next steps. So I have gone ahead and cut out my piece and folded it, but you can see I've missed a little bit here. So I want to fix that before we move on. The other thing I want to show you is that the remainder of what's left here is quite pretty. These little circles and these flowers, I might do something with those. I could put them on the inside of the card for sure. That might be a nice thing, is to take one of these little flower pieces and enhance the inside. So that's an opportunity. Or I could just hang on to these pieces and, you know, use them on another piece, because the watercolor paper was just so pretty. So I'm going to set that aside until I decide what I'm going to do with that. But we're going to come back in and work on this edge of the card here and just go in and add some more color to the edge, because we were missing a little bit of color. And so I want to touch that up, and then we'll call it good, and we can dry it again. Just going in with a couple different colors to blend things together. All right, just travel it in a little bit. Okay, and so now it does kind of look a little edgy there, so we can bring some of that color in. So just kind of going over things here to blend it in a bit more. There, and it is the back of the card, so I think that is going to do well enough for us. Close that up, put that away. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is that with the remainder of this piece, I went in with a paper punch and cut out some of the colors that we can use for the center of the flowers. So we have to set this aside to dry. And then the other thing I have in front of me here is I went ahead and cut down a piece of copy paper in light pink, and to show you what that's going to look like. So I just put this on the paper and cut. All right. So it is the exact same size, and I just want to trim it down a little bit so that it is a little bit smaller. All right. And just move my water over because I still want to use that. All right. So sorry if I'm off camera. I am just going to cut off a very thin amount from two sides of the pink paper. Now, we could round edges if we wanted to. I'm going to leave it the way it is because that's how the design came. So now you can see how I put this in here, how it's going to set, because it's just a little bit smaller. All right. So the back is still wet, so not going to do much there until that dries. But I can decide how I want to do this. Do I want to glue it in place? Do I want to staple it in place? Do I just want to glue it along that edge so that it's loose? I may want to glue it down better than what I normally would, because painting, I got the back side a little bit dirty. So I'm going to set that aside. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to bring that in here. And the next thing I wanted to do was check to see what would it look like if I took my pink paint that I splattered with. And I'm going to have to grab a smaller paintbrush here. Sorry. Didn't have one out for this. All right. So what I was going to do with my paper punches, and I have a few extras here that I want to try, is what would happen if I edge these, kind of like how you would edge with an ink pad. What if I edged with paint? And I'm looking for my tweezers to kind of help make this work. All right, so if I get pinch the side that I've already painted on, if I go, oh, that was too much. If I go around the edge, swipe off, let's see, what does that, actually it's not bad with some of the, can you see what I'm doing here? With some of that pink in the middle. All right, so let's try that. I've got an extra little one here. So let's try that again. Just go around the edge. And I'm not trying to be perfect. And let's see how that looks. Does it stand out? All right, so the choice is to go with the painted edge, like so, or do I want to go with no painted edge? So let me bring this up to show you the difference. All right, so there's the painted edge, and there it is without the painted edge. And I think it stands out a little bit more with the painted edge. So I'm going to go for that. I am going to go ahead and just go around these. And I kind of like the imperfection of it because the paint splatter is very similar to that. So I just did paper punching in areas that were a different color than from where I wanted to place them on the piece. Now this one I had to cut because it's a corner. So I punched it out and then I'll show you here. I cut the two sides. And I think I need three, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think I need 3 little guys. And so I've already done 2. So this is my third one. And you can see that I'm doing kind of different. All right, so there's one that just fell off that was painted. So now I'm going to go ahead and edge around the edge of the card as well. And hopefully it'll all relate. And that's kind of why we did those pink splotches or drops while we were painting, because I wanted to add more of this color after we were done. All right, so just little touches, not a huge amount. You could probably even omit doing this. I do like doing little extra details, so that's kind of what I'm doing here. And you know, I could always add more of this pink color if I feel like I need it somewhere, but I think we're good. I could go in, now this is really nitpicky, with such a little teeny brush, and I'm just going to go in and drop in a few dots on the area that we painted and filled in with, just so it relates a bit more to the splatters. Like I said, nitpicky, all right? So I'm going to clean up. I'm going to go ahead and dry the edge that we painted, and I'll be back to put it on. Let's go ahead and finish up the front pieces before I do the insert. So we've got this big flower here that I want to put a dot on, and then we have 3 of these that I'm going to put dots in the center of. I have this one. I'm going to put And then this one has a partial, and that one got torn a little bit, so I'm going to try to clean that up. All right, so let's see. The corner piece is the one that I cut off, so I can tell you that that's going to go right here. All right, and so hopefully now that you see the design and how it's kind of cut off, that makes sense. All right, so then we have a pink. I don't remember where I was putting what. I'm going to go ahead and put the pink here. And I'm going to put the yellow over here just to kind of balance those two out. All right, so that's the reason for that design decision there. And then I have these little circles that go into the smaller flowers. And these were just using a paper punch, but you can see they're pretty similar in size to that there. So I could have taken those and flipped them over, which is what I was originally thinking I was going to do. But since I pulled out a paper punch for these, I thought, I'll just go ahead and punch those as well. So paper punch I used was this one. Doesn't have a size on it. This was a Stampin' Up! A 1/2-inch circle. Somebody wrote on there. I got that used. And then this is just a standard paper punch I used for the centers. And now we have our paper insert, and we can decide how are we going to tack that in place, right? I am going to go ahead and run a line of glue right along the fold there. All right, so right on the back side, but right along the fold. And then I'm going to stick this in place, trying to get it to center into that fold. And I don't want to glue it down in all directions because I don't want it to buckle. All right, we already have a little bit of kind of wrinkle happening because of the watercolor. So what I might do is just tack it in the corners here. So I know I have this one leaf here that needs a little help with glue. So I'm going to put a little glue on that right there to hold that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit of glue on the corners there. And as I fold this closed, you can see that it just tacks in place, but still loose everywhere else. And then now I have these petals, if I want, they're loose. I can give them a little bit of a curl if I want to make this have some dimension to the front. Right, but then we have our insert that we can now write on, and I didn't tack that corner down, but I do have it tacked in the center, and I have it tacked here in the corners. So that is how I used this file to make a cute little note card. If you remember the pieces I had on the mat that I just couldn't throw out, I'm going to go ahead and use them on the inside. So I've laid them out where I want them, and now I'm just going to go in and touch with some glue.